Hey guys, welcome to BP, the Bible Perspective. I want to talk about Bill Cosby and the problems with the Bill Cosby case. Is he a victim of injustice or a beneficiary of privilege? Now, before we get into it, please like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome. Now, last week, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned the conviction of Bill Cosby. He was convicted on aggravated sexual assault. Not as strong as rape, but it landed him a 3 to 10 year sentence. He probably would have done most of that because he refused to admit ever that he was guilty, and he did not take any kind of counseling or classes that would have helped in the case of probation. Of course, he didn't need it because the courts basically said his case never should have been brought. Now, as predicted, this sparked huge reactions on opposite reactions. Some cheered, others lamented. His long-term friend, Felicia Rashad, who played his wife on the Cosby Show, who always stood by him and always said she believed in his innocence. When he was released, or when the news came of the reversal of the conviction, she tweeted out that a great injustice has been righted. For that, she received fierce backlash, which was surprising because it kind of showed the divide even among the black community, that many black women basically believed that he was guilty. So you see this split with people, but the question is why? And why let me just be clear, I am not here to make a case for either his guilt or innocence. I'm here to discuss, to me, where the problems are, or what they are, concerning his case. And while his case certainly wasn't as notable, it didn't reach the level of media coverage as this man, if you will remember, O.J. Simpson. Their cases are similar, and I'm going to come back to him in a moment, but I want to talk about why I think there were problems that existed, or the problems that contribute to the Bill Cosby case, and that is the Me Too movement. The media witnesses, right? The witnesses that came forward, and then the law system itself. Now, all of these, believe it or not, were the problems as to why we have a Bill Cosby and why there's much debate. And because of those, I don't think we will ever know true innocence. Now, obviously, the victims will say, we know he's guilty, but Bill Cosby says what they're saying is not true. And of course, when you have that, the system is supposed to adjudicate that. But to me, the system failed. And as I said, when we kind of go back, this has been going on for a long time. In my opinion, the word justice should be removed from the justice system, because justice is really not the aim here. And I'm going to explain that by talking about each of those points. Now, like I say, the cases are the O.J. Simpson case is similar. You know, if you remember O.J. Simpson, back in the early 90s, he was a star athlete, celebrated athlete. He was also doing movies and television. So his star was rising there. But one night, his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, along with a waiter, Ronald Goldman, was brutally murdered while her kid slept in the bedroom. And it was a brutal. They were really just bludgeoned to death with a knife. Well, the police zeroed in on OJ, and when it became clear that they were going to charge him, he became distraught. And after visiting her grave, people thought he was going to run. Later, they would find some items in there that would suggest that. But the infamous slow speed chase. He was spotted on the freeway. Next thing you know, the police are called, notified, and by this time, by the way, he was supposed to turn himself in, and that's why it became a chase, because he went past the time, and then the LA captain basically said he is now a fugitive of law. The reason why I'm bringing up the infamous slow speed chase was because right there you see the media involvement here. And that slow speed chase was seen all around the world by hundreds of millions of people. Later in his case, the media would sue to have cameras inside of the courtroom, which is kind of interesting because, freedom of the press is not freedom to know. And why they have a right that exists, there's nowhere in the Constitution that says that they have a right to know. But they sued. And because of this case, many careers, court TV was birthed from this. I think it blew up. Many television pundits' careers were launched from this case alone. As far as the witnesses and the mountain of evidence that the prosecution said that they have, his defense team did an excellent job of just eviscerating all of the evidence. And one was a witness. Remember, his name was Mark Furman. He was one of the witnesses that sunk the case. Besides being exposed as a racist, he claimed he had never used the N-word. Later, they would read excerpts where he used the N-word like it was going out of style. But that wasn't it for what Mark Furman. What really did Mark Furman in was under oath they asked him, had he ever planted evidence? His reply, I plead the fifth. And that probably was one of the nails that sunk the case, besides the fitting of the glove and everything else. The problem here is that with this case here, race played a part of it when they finally read the verdict, which again was seen all over the world. They had a split screen. They had a white audience and they had a black audience. Now think about it. This is a court case. And when they read not guilty, the white audience gushed out in anguish, while the black audience leaped and jumped for joy. All right. The system, now even though Me Too wasn't around, you had witnesses, you had the media, and you had the law that really messed up this case. Because pushed into the shadows was we forgot, a woman and a man who probably was just at the wrong place at the right time, regardless of the rumors, was brutally murdered. A mother, a son, a brother, a sister. Nicole was brutally murdered while her children slept in their bedrooms inside the house. The system did that. And that's why I want to go back and revisit this Bill Cosby case, because we find the same thing here. The Me Too movement, the media, and the witnesses in law, to me, botched this case up. These four elements ruin the case. Let's talk about the Me Too movement, because you see, what you have is this Cosby case just happened to come at the Me Too movement time. The Me Too movement started about 5 years ago. Started building steam, and it basically was a public awareness. Now you have to understand that prior to the Me Too movement, victims of sexual harassment and assault wasn't believed, wasn't heard, and thus they had to just endure, because see, the system oftentimes work against them. Well, as the Me Too movement gained a lot of momentum, a lot of high-powered men went down during this time. And one of the good things about the Me Too movement was, you see, it provided a voice, which also then now women can come forward and say, you know what, we're going to be heard. Now, part of the problems with the Me Too movement was, one of the tenets or the belief is, we believe women, and it's kind of left it at that. No investigation, no question. We just believe them. And because of that, if a woman just said, me too, I was raped, I was assaulted, it was treated as if it was a conclusion. And thus, what you're going to have is these women who came forward to accuse, these are all women who accused Bill Cosby of some kind of sexual assault. I'll come back to them. Now let's talk about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, and when we look at these women here, by the way, remember, this is these victims. Actually, this is not even all of them. This was a picture of a New York Times cover where they came along and said, we are accusing Bill Cosby of. And here was the thing. I want to talk about media in a moment, but remember, the media said 60 women, and you hear that even today, that 60 women accused Bill Cosby of rape. Now, these women range from the late 60s to the present, or the present up until the time of his conviction. The problem with the Me Too movement, however, is that the allegations have to be defined in context. So let's go back and talk about Bill Cosby himself. As early as the 60s, he had made it big in Hollywood. He was a smart businessman, but he was also a smart actor. One of the few black men at the time that was able to even navigate in this white male-dominated Hollywood. Bill Cosby was one. And as such, he became a wealthy, privileged man. And what that means is that he had influence, he had power. When he would go to a party, for example, he hung out at the Playboy Mansion. Some of his accusers were at the Playboy Mansion. Some even worked at the Playboy Mansion. Why is that important? Because they worked at the Playboy Mansion. Now, also, and some of the more serious allegations came of those who would meet with him 11 o'clock at night at his mansion to talk about his show. By the time Bill Cosby developed the Cosby Show, and of course it was the #1 show for nearly a decade, he became what known as American Dad. And this is important here because Bill Cosby, the brand. See, Bill Cosby, the brand, was making a lot of money for the networks, making a lot of money for people. When accusers would come, the brand protected Bill Cosby for the brand's sake. If someone said, hey, this man is harassing me, she was hushed. She was quieted. Maybe she was paid off. Maybe she got a part or something. That was the system. And this is why I say you have to define Cosby and his accusers, some of them, in the context of the time. See, here's what I'm saying. If you're going to accuse Cosby and single him out, there was a whole network of people that protected the brand. Why aren't you naming them? See, why aren't you going after them? Now, unlike the O.J. Simpson trial that became about race, race plays a little part in this, but I'm going to mention race right about here. See this picture here? There were several high-powered men at the same time. I'm going to talk about one now. And that is this man, Harvey Weinstein, who actually had more accusers accuse him of rape, sexual assault, sexual misconduct, sexual harassment. So where is the New York Times collage of accusers? Okay, I'm not going to focus on that, but I just wanted to mention that. But the idea here is that there was a system, and that's the point. Now, at the time, this woman, Andrea Constance, accused Bill Cosby of sexual harassment, sexual assault. It was believed, what the accusation was, he drugged her, fondled her. The system protected Cosby. Remember the brand. The DA at the time, that's the law. Remember I said you had the law, right? You had the law who was now working because they basically said when they talked to Andrea Caston that she didn't have a strong enough case. Now, in some cases, they said some of her testimony was inconsistent, and you'll find that that was the case with a lot of the more serious women who accused Bill. Now we're going to get back to that, media and the witnesses. But they said basically, okay, you don't have enough. And what he did was he said, I'm going to try to negotiate, get you some money. And they did. So they ended up settling. In order to do that, they told Bill Cosby that if he was to give a deposition, he waived his Fifth Amendment right of self-incrimination, and he talked about some things, and he settled the case as reported for $3.4 million. That should have been the end of it. Now, in the Me Too movement, this resurfaced. It resurfaced because at the time, Bill Cosby used to talk about black men. Now, this is interesting. This is a whole nother discussion about what is going on in the black community. People were mad at Bill Cosby because he was telling black men to pull up their pants and speak with articulate English and get an education. And there were people that clapped back at that. Even educated people. Again, won't go down that road. I'm so tempted. There was a comedian who said that he was criticizing in a comedy routine. He was telling Bill Cosby, Bill Cosby is telling black men to pull up their pants, and he was like, why don't you pull up your pants, Bill Cosby? And that sparked the women to come forward, and that ended up in the trial. All right. Okay, so the Me Too happened, and that's why then a DA who was running for the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office campaigned on the promise of convicting Bill Cosby, and that's what he did. But the Pennsylvania court said you never should have opened that case again. See, that's the problem. You never should have opened that case. He used the deposition, and that's why that case was reversed. Now, you also have, of course, the case being driven by the media. And once time, when the media sets its sights on you, woe unto you. So, who used the media? Well, the lady by the name of Gloria Aldrich. Now, on the one hand, when you have lawyers like Gloria, you want her that because she's that person that's going to get your case in front of the camera for whatever her motives are. But she focused on Bill Cosby, not just on high-profile sexual offenders or people that, people who high-powered men who sexually harass. She really focused on Bill Cosby. Why am I making an issue out of that? Let's go back to this man, Harvey Weinstein. Remember, he was accused also multiple times, even more than Bill Cosby. So why didn't Gloria focus her attention on him? Why didn't she take up any of the Harvey Weinstein victims? And I said, where was the New York cover? Well, this woman, who's by the name of Lisa Bloom, she is the daughter of Gloria Aldrich. And Gloria Aldrich, now, you may think, what is the connection here? Well, Gloria Aldrich is friends with Harvey Weinstein. In fact, she's even defended Harvey Weinstein, for which she received, a fierce backlash, which she had to fiercely apologize for. So you see, my point is, in all of this justice, it was just a media hype. Now let's talk about witnesses. Remember we said the eyewitnesses? And one of the things that people said was that, and when you put the media together, and then now they were saying, look, 60 women, they can't be wrong. Oh no, they can't be wrong. And even black women. Remember I said even black women, by the way, that's Tiffany Cross on the other side right there. But she represents a lot of black women that think Bill Cosby is wrong and what an injustice. But these women, they were saying, how could they lie? Could they all be lying? Well, that is amazing to me, since we know that eyewitness accounts are incredibly unreliable. And when you sit back and you examine, you see, first of all, the media drove a narrative that 60 women accused Bill Cosby of rape. That was just an outright lie. They didn't. He wasn't even convicted of rape. Now again, I'm not saying he was right or wrong. Most of the cases fell apart. That's why none of these accusers, besides the statute of limitations, again, why did they come forward? Basically, it was a Me Too moment. And then people were saying, hey, you know what? Bill Cosby either sexually assaulted me, harassed me, and in some cases there were rape. Now, like I say, out of the more serious accusers, statutes of limitations ran out. But then even some, when you examine them, their testimony just fell apart. This woman here, as you see, this is a white woman, and you see this man, his name is Ronald Cotton. Back in the 80s, she was raped. And one of the things that she did was, while she was being raped, and she was raped by a black man, okay, she studied his face. She studied his face, and she said, you know what, the police, the investigators went in awe, because they were saying with this great trauma she was experiencing, she had the frame of mind to study his face so she can give a positive ID. And she positively ID'd Ronald Cotton. She said, that's the man, I would stake my life on it. Now, this was before DNA. But even before that, there were problems with the case. The police arrested him, he got convicted, and he went to jail, went to prison for a long time. But even then, see, the media had framed him as this black man who raped this white woman. And that's a history there. That's a history. Even if, wait a minute, see, she was truly a victim. She was truly raped, and she was raped by a black man. The police ignored blood types, his alibi. On that alone, they should have said, you know what, we need to give pause. While in prison, he came across this man, Ronald's on the right. I think his name is Gregory Pools on the left. Now, as he began to talk to this man, he realized this is the dude that raped the white girl. Now, do they look familiar to you? Now, probably at a glance you could say, yeah, there's some similarities. But remember, she said she studied his face. So there's enough figures there that you could say, if she studied her face, right? I mean, just look at the noses. But anyway, I'm not disparaging her because she was the victim. And truly a victim. She was raped. DNA came out, and you probably can guess it. DNA came out and found out he was the one who was guilty. She was mortified that she put the wrong man in jail. You see, this picture of them together, they are good friends because she reached out to him. She apologized. He forgave her. They are good friends to this day. So my point here is the system failed because I'm going to say that, see, with Bill Cosby, I don't think he was the best person. I think he did take advantage of his privilege. Remember, he had power. If he wanted to grope someone, he had a system protecting him. He was used to that. He was used to people saying, Mr. Cosby, I would do anything for you to get this job, to get this part. When you have that kind of power. So I'm not saying he was innocent. But the system failed, and you had a lot of people using the system, the Me Too, the media, the witness, and then now even the law. And that's why the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said to the lower courts, to the DA, you were wrong to do that. And who knows if they had just done their due diligence, the truth could have came out. Now we'll never know the truth right now. The victims say, I'm still a victim. He says he's not. But that's what the courts are for. And some of the biggest entities, I'm going to say, is the media in the law. The witnesses, they could have been managed. Me Too, you don't even too much hear about Me Too these days, but the media still drives. The media is the force, it still drives. So those are the problems right here. And it's so easy for the masses to be swayed by the media. It is so easy for the masses to be manipulated by the law. Witnesses you can almost get a witness of anything. So look, those are my issues with the Bill Cosby case. What do you think? That is my perspective. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. As always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome. Till next time, I'll see you then.